Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's FPV podcast. This week, we got father and son on to talk about the FAI championships and also what they've been doing in drone racing in general. So, before we get into all of that, Elvin, what do you got this week?
Hey, I just got a little. I'm kind of a little upset about what's going on in the hype train right now. We're talking about the girl who got touched at a race, and it wasn't validly represented because it's outside of the United States. So I want to make sure that we, as the FPV community, make sure that inside the United States we don't have this kind of stuff happening. We should be the best representatives of the hobby and the sport inside the United States and outside of the United States. So please, guys, let's do something about this. Let's make sure this doesn't happen again. And let's keep our hobby safe for everybody and anybody. Thank you.
Absolutely. That's a very good starter right there. Keith, how you doing, man? Can you please introduce yourself?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm Keith Gilbert. I'm RaceBot's dad. Thank you for having Tristin and I on the show. Appreciate it.
Hey, appreciate you coming on as the team manager. RaceBot, what do you got to say?
I'm RaceBot. I race drones. My dad, he said he's the team captain or the manager. He's also my personal pit crew.
Oh, there you go. I like that. Cool, man. Hey, you know what? We always like father and son combos. Can you two talk to us on how you got into RC and FPV? Keith, you want to start off first?
Yeah, I'd like to. The start for me was, it's been just a little over a couple of years ago. Tristin had finished his summer of detasseling and just came up to me and said, I want to buy a racing drone. And I saw it on YouTube and he showed me some videos and I was like, okay, it's your money. Let's try to figure this out. It wasn't long after that, some packages started showing up in the mail, and I had this happy kid sitting on the living room floor opening up this what was it? It was an Immersion RC 250 Vortex. Was the one you were just in? Yeah, like a great drone, super popular. I mean, we started heading over to the local park or the school playground and just trying to get that thing off the ground and learning really fast what you need to have on hand at any given moment in this hobby. Interesting note is I don't fly. I'm just like Tristin said, I'm pit dad. I'm there for everything. I love building. I love tinkering with stuff. You'll find me on my days off. If you don't know where I'm at in the house, there's one place to go, and that's the drone room, because I'm sure to be right there soldering something or just tinkering with something. So Tristin always knows where to find me when he gets home from class. He'll usually walk in the back door, and that aroma of me soldering in the basement has carried through the house. So they all know that I'm working. So trying to create something new and wondrous out of the drone room.
Okay, RaceBot, what about you? I mean, your dad kind of told us that you got started with the Immersion 250, but what really, brought your interest into racing?
Well, when I was looking at drones, I was kind of planning on just getting myself a Phantom, do some aerial photography, and I saw some racing on YouTube. Like, this looks way cooler than puttering around in hover mode. Mm-hmm. So I got one, and we started learning a lot about it. I think the first time I flew it, I didn't know how to set the channel on the VTX to my goggles. I just line of sighted it, and I flew it across the park into a tree, and I had to wait a couple of weeks for a person to show up.
We've all been there.
Yeah. But I quickly went to some local hobby shops, and they got us connected with the local FPV group. Mm-hmm. That's where I met all of the local guys who helped me get started in flying and racing.
Awesome. Which group were you in?
It was Nebraska Drone Racing back then.
Okay. I don't think I know anybody out there, but like when
there's nobody out here.
Oh, okay. maybe that's why.
There's a few. There's a good handful of pilots, and an interesting side note. As Tristin and I continued to be involved with the local group in Lincoln, Nebraska, and those guys. Mm-hmm. It was shortly after that the guy who founded Nebraska drone racing, had graduated college and was going to be moving away. And by the end of that weekend, it was somehow in my lap. And it's like, here you go, Keith. You're now in charge. So Tristan and I, ever since then, we changed the name to Lincoln Drone Racing. We try to, get as many people involved locally as we can. And we still have a good handful of pilots that like to do a little bit of racing and like to do a lot of freestyle flying, just going out and hanging out and having fun.
Cool. Now, when you got your 250, did you just gravitate straight towards racing, or did you also do a little freestyle before getting hardcore into the racing?
I didn't really know much about racing. I just seen people flying around on YouTube, so that's what I started doing. Like 2 months after I started flying, I went to my first race. That's what kind of kickstarted it. I met a local pilot who had his own FPV company just a town over. So I decided I just focus on racing and try and work with him. And was it like 3 or 4 months after I started flying, I got sponsored by Mid-America Multi-Rotor.
Nice.
Yeah, I was lucky. I was really worried about building new quads because this is kind of expensive. I've never really had a real hobby before. I wasn't planning on racing until I saw the first gate. I just went for it. It was fun. I liked it. I got third place. I felt pretty good about it. It was really weird though, like setting my quad on the table. There's I think there's 15 other pilots there. They all had 3 quads, and I had a 250 size and they're down at the 180 size. I'm like, this thing's huge. I need to build some new quads. That
is actually very true. By the time you entered, the 250 quads were already out of vogue and everybody was already being a weight weenie. But hey, you got third out of 15, so obviously the size didn't really hinder you.
I think I was one of 2 people on 4S back then also.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that does help.
That did help.
Yeah,
that helped.
I don't remember the 250 all that well. Was it an actual agile machine? Because
yes.
It was a pretty heavy bird the last time I remember.
It was pretty heavy, but it came pre-tuned and top mount battery. That thing had 5 or 6 millimeter arms. It was crazy durable, and it flew great. You could race it around. You could do freestyle with it. Did everything.
It was at the time. It was the only. Well, the Vendetta had just came out right after that. Right after. Almost at the same time they came out. Anyway, but that came out and it was really capable of racing. You could go to a race and use it. You were probably going to get beat by some of the faster pilots in the end, but in the beginning, you were probably going to durse a bunch of guys if you knew what you was doing.
Cool. All right, so let's go ahead and fast forward to this year a little bit. Obviously, you two have been really deep into the drone racing community. Keith, this is a question for you. How did you become the team manager for Team USA for the FAI Championships?
That's a good question. After Tristan came home from IO and had let me know that he had qualified, and we had decided that, okay, you're going to China. David Roberts from the AMA, David's a super great guy, had the wisdom and the foresight to help really put this whole trip together, this whole opportunity. So we really have to thank him for his input and on this. But we had some conference calls with the team. Every Sunday we would meet at or we'd have a call, and usually half of the team would be there. I don't know if it was maybe the second call. The conversation came up from David, and he said that we need to decide on, and it can't be one of the pilots. It needs to be, we need our team manager to be someone separate. And I wasn't really paying attention a whole lot because at the time I had no thought that I wasn't going to just jump up and say, yeah, maybe I'll do it. But the next thing I know, I heard Christopher Hartman say, I vote for Keith Gilbert. And it wasn't but a few seconds after that. And, I was kind of uncomfortable because I knew Chris's dad was on the call also. And I knew Richard probably had some interest in being team captain / team manager. And then I hear Tristan vote for me. And the next thing I know, it's, all right, Keith Gilbert, team manager. Is that okay with you? Okay,
done deal.
All right. Yeah, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into, but yeah, and the rest is history. Because let me tell you, the team manager position at that event was very challenging, at least for me. And I'm not sure how many miles I ran back and forth between tables and the stage and the judges' tables to try to keep things moving along, or maybe really just try to keep up with what was going on. Other team managers, excuse me, like Team Australia and Team Canada, these guys seem to have already had some experience at FAI events. So I was really trying to keep an eye on them and listen to what they were doing and watch what they were doing to just stay afloat at that point and make sure, my pilots are where they are when they need to be, so that they can fly and try to do as best they can.
Now, I thought you actually knew you were the team manager before I.O., but I guess not. RaceBot, you did qualify at I.O., and obviously you didn't know your dad was going to be the team manager. Going into I.O., was that a goal that you had in mind, or were you just going there just to compete and see where you ended up?
I did not even know this race existed at I.O.
Yeah, neither did I, actually.
It was the very last day, and I packed the car with the other pilot. I'm like, all right, let's go. And Sean Ames and Nurk were there, and like, you can go over the track and race to go to China? And I was like, sure, I guess I can do that. I mean, my plan was just try and do as well as I could at the World Champion, or the World Cup. I think that's what it was called, the World Cup.
Yeah, World Cup course.
And the team race. So like, I'm on Team Heart of America for team racing. We got second place. But yeah, so my goal was World Cup and team racing. I had no idea China was going to be involved in this at all.
Actually, you know what? Let's dive a little bit into the team race in I.O. I was actually there, and Heart of America was definitely competing against Team Canada pretty aggressively for that number one spot. What did you learn team racing there that you can kind of bring into the FAI championships?
Just stay calm. I know at one point, it was Jaws. He was flying. He just got up. He was in his groove. And then his video went out. Somebody on the freestyle track had plugged in, and we had no video on our channel for 15 seconds. So it was just like trying to stay calm, keep your cool, and get back in the air and not push yourself too hard, but you want to push yourself enough to catch back up. That was a really important thing that we had to work on. Communication too. This isn't the first time Heart of America has raced. I feel like we've got our communication between the pilots, the pit crew, and the lap counter dialed in. And that really helped out in China, because each team had 8 minutes of practice time on the track for all 5 pilots at once. All 5 pilots. So we basically made it a team race where we had all of the parents run out on the track, unplug our quads, plug in the next ones, and then we should go. I mean, that was super helpful.
Team Heart of America at I.O., you had a pretty stacked roster. When we looked over there, it's like, man, it's like, this is kind of cheating here.
Half the team's DRL pilots.
Exactly. So did you, racing with them, did you learn something from them? Or was there something that you took away from that team race from the pros?
From racing with the DRL pilots? Or
just anyone on your team, really?
I raced with Sean Ames and Sebring for the team racing, and I knew how he flew, and I kind of knew how Jaws and Nurk flew. I wasn't sure what to expect. I've never worked with them on a race before. Some of the other team races, like a month or two ahead, we get together and we practice. This was just, we jumped on the track and we went for it. So I was learning what can and I can't say around them to be appropriate. That was a big thing. You just gotta be safe for that. And then for the flying, it's, do I push myself or do I hang back and let them get laps? But it ended up, we were all pushing ourselves enough while staying steady. But I did learn Jaws. He really likes to wiggle the throttle up and down really fast. I saw him doing it and I was just blown away. His quad's flying like in a straight line still.
Did you like flying with him?
Yeah. No, they were flying with us. But yeah.
Okay, the other way around. So let me re-ask the question. Did Team Heart of America like having them join the team?
Yeah. We got a lot of call-outs on social media after that. Like, we've got DRO pilots in our team. That's a big deal. And it was half the team, too. They really enjoyed themselves, and I think they're going to stay with Heart of America, hopefully, for the next race.
An important thing to say about Team Heart of America is, Sean Ames is he's the guy that put together Team Heart of America, created it, and has brought us together. I say us. I guess I still feel involved. I'm still included on the our messenger chats and stuff. So I get to every day watch all the chatter that's on there going on between. I don't see Jaws on there much, but Nurk's on there quite a bit, and Sean and Armando, and Timothy, and those guys are always on there. It's hard to even keep up with, but just, a huge shout out to Sean Ames for what he's done and the amount of energy that he puts into stuff. Super great guy.
I know I've talked to him a few times, and he definitely wants that team to succeed, so he puts a lot of energy into it. I need to actually get him onto the podcast, but yeah, definitely looks like they're doing really well for themselves, trying to keep that team together. Because outside of Team Canada, there's not really one other team that's doing very well cohesively, always flying together with the same members. It's very difficult in the United States. Let's go ahead and get back on track here. So once you realized that you were the team captain / team manager, I mean, what were your responsibilities? Because that was kind of, I guess, volunteered on you or voluntold on you.
Yeah. We kind of laid some groundwork down about what I was going to be responsible for leading up to the event, and really what my goal for myself to provide for the team was just to be there for them day and night. And so that's what I did. We build these 4S rigs and put LEDs all over them, which is a pain in the butt. You get used to building something, and then you add another 53 miles of wiring just to put 40 LEDs on it, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is just a complete monster build here. So I was constantly messaging back and forth with all the pilots about these LEDs and this controller, and trying to get the colors to work. It was really stressful just to have colors on the darn thing, but everybody got them working. It worked out really good. And we just, as we watched that date get closer for the event, we just kept checking things off on the list, making sure that everybody had applied for their visas so that they could, go to China and get all of their builds done in a timely manner, and start running some batteries through them to make sure that they fly, and hopefully don't bust the builds up, because you don't want to have to rebuild them right before the race. So it all worked out, and we all somehow got on our flights and made it to China to attend the event.
Before you actually got to China, was the team able to actually practice together, or were they kind of all independent?
Everybody was independent. The only time we got together were moments like we're doing right now, is just, chatting, doing some conference calls and seeing how things are going, talking about batteries, and seeing what was working and what wasn't working. And I don't know how many hours I spent in the drone room leading up to that event, getting ready, and then messaging and saying, okay, this works. This is what we're going to do. A great bunch of pilots, though, everybody on the team, very talented, obviously, and a good head on their shoulders, good builders, good pilots. So I was just, and I'm very proud to have been a part of it.
No, it looked like a great event. Now, for you, RaySpot, because you actually didn't get a chance to practice with your team, going into Shenzhen, China, and actually having to work as a team, what were the hurdles that you guys had to, get through in order to actually do well as a team?
We had to figure out where we stacked up against each other. We all have very different flying styles, and at the IO qualifier for this, it was a track we've been flying for the entire week, so it wasn't like a good comparison to like figure out how well we learn a course right off the bat, or how well we can fly at top speeds, because these are brand new quads that we haven't really flown. Luckily, I knew Christopher Hartman from some previous races, so I was comfortable talking and flying with him. But then I had 3 other pilots I had to get to know and try and figure out how they work with their drones and what they like to fly and how they like to fly them. Also, like just communicating between everyone, figuring out who is the introverts, who's the extroverts, who's going to take the lead when somebody walks over with a bunch of free gear and wants to talk to us. And it was little things like that kind of came together.
Sounds to me like your experience on being on a team really paid off, because you kind of already knew how to handle all of that. Were you guys able to figure out a strategy going into the race, or was it kind of touch and go?
A little bit of both. Our strategy was fly the best we could. Don't try not to crash.
Mm-hmm.
It was a single elimination race, so you crash once, the highest you can get is like 9th place.
Wow.
So we were just trying to race our own race. Don't push too hard, but also like support each other. It was so hectic getting up onto the start line and just waiting in line, making sure you had all your gear. We always had a pilot like backup batteries and props and a prop tool standing somewhere, or if they were needed, they could run over and swap some stuff out. Christopher Hartman's dad, he was always going out on the line when he'd set up our quads. He would plug us in, like make sure video looks good. We do an arm test, and we didn't have it happen, but a few other pilots, they like lose props. So they'd switch out the quad really quick before the race started, so they didn't have any little issues like that.
Those smaller issues can be big problems at the end of the day. So yeah, it sounds going into that race, this track is more, reminiscent of Dubai, not on the same scale as Dubai, but it still looked really awesome. What'd you think of the track?
I loved the track. It wasn't so technical that you couldn't fly it. Like Nationals last year, where it was so confusing, you were going slow to make sure you hit all the gates. This track, it was open. You just followed the road that was laid out in front of you. I know some people have been talking about like, oh, this is too easy of a track. Well, it wasn't super easy because it's now going up and down and all these big turns and sweeps. But once you found your line, you're just dialed in and you could just cruise along and kind of enjoy the ride with all the LEDs. And I don't know if you watched the stream, but at night, when your quad went through a gate, LEDs on the track would follow your quad around, usually the same color as your quad. So that was a cool little touch.
Racing on a track like that, I've always wondered, is that something that you have to kind of adjust to for the first day, or did you find it very easy to pick up?
I had to adjust to it. During our practice rounds, trying to figure out what to do on the track, with all the ups and downs, it felt like a Mario Kart track, not a drone racing track that we've been on before, because everything was flat. There was a few tower gates and that was it. But nothing was moving up and down when you were going through it. So the first day it was cruising through it, figure out where bad video is, and figure out where we can speed up and where we need to slow down to make sure we don't crash. The second day it was put some fresh batteries on and just bump the throttle up, try and get your lap times down, and just feel a bit more comfortable with the track.
Cool. Now, Mr. Team Manager Keith, when you got there and you saw this grand stage and you're representing the United States of America, what were you thinking? Were you like, I'm way in over my head? Were you like, I got this, no problem?
No, it was pretty awesome seeing it all come together, and my team was there, supporting me every step of the way. The pilots were great, and Richard and Mary Hartman were amazing the whole week. Really.
Uh-oh. I think we might have lost your dad.
Okay. Well, going off what he was saying, I don't know if some of the stuff was lagged out, but trying to figure out which room you need to be in as a team manager for the special meetings was very challenging. Everybody there uses WeChat, so we had WeChat to communicate. And they had a special one for the team managers, and it was just team managers though. And they were required, or they had to communicate with each other to figure out certain rules. We had to put the DJI cameras on our quads, but we didn't know which room. And they designated times. And when it was our time, they're like, "Oh, we've been waiting for like 3 hours for you guys, so you have to wait in line now." It was just little things like that where there was no communication. Nothing made any sense. Calling the rules, trying to get reflights for some of us, like Christopher Hartman, very first round of qualifying, somebody plugged in the pits and he lost video and he crashed. Mm-hmm. But in the DVR for the judges, they didn't see the plug-in until after he crashed because all of their antennas were pointing away from the stands. So they had a little bit different of a view. So like, we can't give you a reflight because it looks like that was your fault for crashing and not the other pilots for plugging in. And when you contest stuff, the judge will say no. And you're like, okay, well, I'm going to fight you on this. And you pay $60 cash. And if they decide that you're still wrong, they keep the money. But if you're right, you get the money back. So it's like, do I really want to spend $60 on an argument that I might not win? I want some burgers. I'm still kind of hungry from racing all day.
Man, that is tough. You know what? That's a Joe Scully rule. I remember him always talking about that. I wonder if he picked that up from Joe Scully. Now, going through all of that, obviously you get a chance to see all the other teams fly. When you were watching the first day, were there specific teams that you were picking out that saying they're going to be fast, they're definitely going to be good competition for us, or were they kind of all even when you first came in?
It was kind of hard to tell at first because we didn't know who was up, and there was 35 teams there, and most of the jerseys are either white or black, and you got to try and figure out who's who. Australia, I know some of the pilots on there, and I was like, all right, they're obviously going to do well. Some French pilots were destroying the track in their first battery. There were some pilots we've heard of to watch out for because they're really fast. Mm-hmm. But we were just focusing on who was in our heat and just focusing on our own flying, not worrying about what they're going to do. Because to qualify for the finals, you need to be like top 64. Mm-hmm. And I mean, just finishing 3 laps basically guaranteed it. But yeah, it was race your own race. Don't push too hard and destroy all your quads before the actual racing starts, and just have a good time.
Gotcha. Team USA got 7th place. So that's actually pretty high amongst, 35 teams, you said?
Yep, 35. We were surprised. We weren't expecting 7th place. There's a few of the pilots, there were some calls made that we didn't agree with, and we tried contesting. It was just such a long day. It was like, all right, whatever, we'll take it. So I think we finished from 28th up to like 43rd, which, I mean, still pretty high out of 150. But yeah, we were not expecting 7th place overall.
So, having done all of that, would you say that was a very good experience going over there and flying in that type of competition?
Yeah, it was a great experience. None of us have been to a race like that. None of us have been out of the States for a race, and none of us have been to a race of that caliber. I think the highest we've been to is nationals, and last year I went to that. That was the biggest race I've ever been to. So there was a lot of stress. There were a lot of pilots there I've never seen before. They're all much faster than me, and there's so much to learn. And at this race, it wasn't just I need to be faster. It's I need to know the rules, and you just need to smile and be nice to people to get around.
Because it's in China, was it actually difficult to get around? Because being Chinese, I can tell you that there are a lot of people that do not speak English over there. Was that any difficulties for you guys?
As long as we were wearing our Team USA jerseys, people would either buy us stuff or they'd want to take selfies with us. So it wasn't scary. Like we couldn't communicate or talk to anyone. In our hotel, it was like maybe a 10-minute walk away from the arena. So most days we walked over there, and since we were racing the entire time, there wasn't a need to try and get taxis or buses to take us around the city. I did go in a taxi a few times, and they are crazy drivers. They are. It was a little scary in the shuttle.
I know what you're talking about. The rules of the roads, they're suggestions more than laws over there.
That's how wide drives.
I do enjoy that everybody uses their horns, but it's a friendly honk and not like, screw you, get out of my way kind of a honk. Right. It's like, I'm going to squeeze through here. Don't hit me, please.
Exactly. Right. It's like, I'm going to squeeze through a spot where I shouldn't be putting a car, but I'm going to do it anyways because I need to get over there.
I'm going to drive on the sidewalk. I'm just going to pass you really quick.
They're crazy over there. I would never want to drive over there. But, different experiences. Last question about Shenzhen. What'd you think of the food?
I had jellyfish. It wasn't very good. I don't know where they got all the meat for the jellyfish, because I'm pretty sure they're 99% water. It was good, though. The food was very good. I don't eat McDonald's, but I had to eat McDonald's a few times. Their McSpicies are very spicy. So yes. I recommend those. But I had a lot of rice and chicken. I don't eat fish, so that wasn't as big of a deal. My dad's a vegetarian, so when we ordered vegetarian meals, it came with fish, and he's like, I can't touch that. So it was always trying to find like just a bowl of rice or like a leaf of lettuce for him to munch on.
Vegetables and rice. That's all he could eat over there.
Mm-hmm. I think he lost a few pounds.
Rank your dad as team manager. How did he do?
I'm a little bit biased because he is my dad, but I'll give him like an 8.
Give him an 8?
He did pretty good.
Pretty good. So you're going to hire him back next year when you go again, right?
That's a B.
Yeah, I mean, he does drive me around, so I can't like leave him behind or anything. He's my pit crew, and he's also my chauffeur for races.
That's right. He's the pit crew. You can't say anything bad about him.
I can't piss him off. So just like swap the positive, negative on my builds.
He'll turn your quad around. You fly right into a pole. It's like
someone did that one of the local races to someone. It was so funny. They flipped the quad around. And he did not realize it for half a lap.
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute. This lap is completely different from what I remember last time.
You just hear someone yell, "What the hell?"
We did that to one of our pilots. It was great. Going out of the FAI championships, congratulations on a 7th place finish, and hopefully you'll make it back next year. Is the team for the FAI championships, did they tell you how it's going to work in 2019? Is it just going to be qualify again, or are they going to kind of have a more semi-permanent team?
I'm sure it should be qualify again. I know for this race, some of the rules were the qualifying race had to be 6 months before the official event. But ours wasn't. It was 3 months before the official event, because MultiGP wasn't planning on attending this race, and one of the employees at MultiGP fought for it for half the year, and they finally decided to do it. So like for this year, I think we had 2 months to prepare. I got all my builds done and all my parts a week before the race started.
Wow!
So preparation was not there. For next year, they will. They should do a qualifier. The issue with that is like you have to have a big event somewhere in the United States where everybody can go, but not everybody wants to fly somewhere to try and go. Everybody wants to go to China. You don't want to pass that up. But having a specific event just for this is a bit more challenging. I mean, even setting up nationals right now, they've had to move it around a few times because the venue is canceled or it just doesn't work out with their schedule.
And IO is probably going to be in the middle of the year again, which means you would wind up being put in the same position. That's kind of that's a tricky one. Pretty much the FAI have to be willing to settle with like multiple qualifiers and then kind of just conglomerating them together, kind of like regional finals. Either that or they're just going to have to come to the United States and put on their own qualifier.
There's no cool place to have a race here. You gotta do it in China again.
Listen to you two. What are you talking about? This is the United States of America. There's
no
cool
place. No place.
Both of you
not
fired.
Colorado.
We cannot do a DRL race for FAI. It's got to be in China or Japan or someplace crazy that you can't experience here in the U.S.
Any last thoughts about the World Championships before we move on?
Craziest race I've ever been to. Met a lot of nice people there. If any of you guys listening do go to China, get WeChat and just wear a sticker with like the ID. It says I have WeChat on it. People come up to you and like hug you. They loved the fact that I had WeChat. That's one thing I got to say for that.
WeChat's like the Chinese version of what? Instant Messenger, Facebook, and probably Twitter all in the same one.
Yeah, you pay for everything with it. If you have Chinese bank account, which sadly I don't. Yeah, it's a great app.
Well, you missed out because like if you'd had like the basic of Chinese bank account, like you said, people were coming up to you wanting to buy stuff. They would have put money in your account, so you could do more stuff around China. I know people that have done that. And they run around with the ID on, and they say, if you want to like subscribing, like being a patron, right? So basically, that's what you are.
That's a good idea. So that's an idea for your dads. Like whoever is the team captain, team manager, they got to start up or have FAI start up a bank account. It would make life a lot easier. Although it sounded like you guys didn't have a lot of time to do anything in China anyway. So you either had to stay a couple extra days or you had to basically not do anything.
We flew in early. We got there. We had 1.5 full days to ourselves. So like the first day, I got a tour of the Emacs factory and offices, which was awesome. And then the next day was the Hobby Wing tour. Both of the companies took us out to lunch. And that was some of the fanciest food I've ever eaten. I think I maybe spent $40 total on food, just random stuff over the entire week. Everything was paid for by other people, which I felt a little weird doing, but it's like, it's free. I can't really complain too much.
It's a cultural thing over there. If they invite you out, they're kind of expected to pay because it is a cultural thing. Although it is kind of cool that you got to go to those factories because they are very popular. How'd you like the tours? Were they interesting?
Yeah, I really wanted to see the winding machine and the magnet machine for the motors, and I got to see those. Kind of
pretty trippy, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the craziest thing I saw was it was at the Emax factory. One of the jobs was, it was like those little heat shrink pieces around the motor wires at the base of the bell. This person's job was sliding the heat shrink down, heating it up, and passing off the motor. I've never seen that as a job, and I was like, I don't want to do anything like that. I just want to fly that
stuff. Hey, all those motors, there's one guy that's touching all of them. I was like,
but thank you for doing this work. The motors are awesome.
All right, so definitely wrapping up the FAI talk there. So really glad that we got a chance to talk to you about that, but more on the American front. Obviously, you're still in college right now, and you're looking at trying to start a college drone racing club, which actually Indiana over here pretty much started that. Have you actually gotten a chance to talk to him about that?
Purdue?
Yeah.
I met Tyler Flanders, FPV, at Nationals, and a few other people that are on the board. They say I need 2 pilots minimum to race, which is very hard because there are no pilots in Nebraska that want to race. So creating this group to try and bring people in will definitely help out, but I haven't had time. Like, I had to try to catch up. I'm still catching up on homework from China that I missed because my VPNs, they stopped working the first day I was there. So no internet connection for homework, and I couldn't even email the teachers saying, like, hey, I can't do this stuff.
Oh, ouch. That really hurts. Yeah. Hopefully that didn't put you behind too much.
Yeah, and even starting the club, I haven't got very far on that. I've just been so busy. If I'm not doing my homework, I have to be flying. Just make sure I've got enough practice under my belt for the next race. Spending at least 5 hours a week on a club isn't doable. The sun's going down almost instantly now. Yep. So get out of class, go fly, and then it's homework time. I can't mess around with getting people into the hobby so that I can go to a collegiate race.
Yep. Totally understand. Give that job to your dad. He's perfect for it. Just tell him we volunteer him.
He loves doing everything for drone racing stuff. Like the club, he loves it and he hates it. When we do a race, he'll post like, hey, can someone help me out set up? But he knows no one's going to want to help out and set up. But he hates it, but he loves setting up the track. So I'm like, you got to choose one or the other. But he'd love to set up the club and do all of that. I don't want him to take over that too.
Yeah, I totally understand.
Your dad's a very busy man too, so it's not just the drone racing thing. He's got to also make a living too. So it can be difficult to run everything.
Yeah, and tell my mom it's okay that we spent a couple $1,000s on batteries. So props this month.
Mm-hmm.
Need more sponsors. That's all I'm saying.
More sponsors.
Yeah. Okay, so just wrapping up this podcast. Obviously, those 2 big events are behind you now. What's the next big event for you? Is it going to be Nationals and DRL?
Well, I'd like it to be DRL, but probably DRL tryouts.
Well, that's what I mean, DRL tryouts.
Well, if you know someone at DRL, you hook me up.
I know everybody in DRL.
We know everybody over there.
No,
I'm going to hook you up.
Yeah. I want.
Don't get us in trouble.
So DRL tryouts is on my list. I'll probably bring all my drones. If there's some downtime on the Nationals track, I might see if I can get in the air on it. IO's over the summer, so that's a definite go-to. Was it Mega Drone X, that giant cave race? I'm looking at doing that. But yes, like right now, it's just focus on local races. I live in Nebraska, and no one really races here, so I have to drive down to Kansas or Kansas City. It's like 3 or 4 hour drive for a race every weekend.
But that's tough. Yep.
Yeah. And
life of a drone racer.
Yeah. With school now, it's like, all right, I lose an entire day of studies, and I don't really want to make that up on another day. So I can't go to those races now.
Because, yep, college is hard. What are you studying?
Software engineering.
Software engineering. Oh, he's going to be another coder.
Yeah, another coder that also flies FPV. So that's half the population right now.
Hey, make sure you talk to him right there. That guy right there.
You can always get a job as a coder. That's what I can tell you, man. Just be in the right city. That's all I'm going to say. But I appreciate the time for you to actually, right before Thanksgiving. It's always nice to talk to you guys. And if you are at the DRL tryouts, me and Elvin are planning to be out there. So we'll definitely try to look out for you and meet up with you guys in person.
Yeah, I'll bring some freestyle quads and go dive some buildings.
Don't get us in trouble.
Yeah, we'll go take the tiny hawk and go dive.
I can assure you there would be more than 10 people diving buildings in Vegas during that week.
Oh yeah.
It's just like minimum of 100 pilots going to Vegas to race at nationals and tryouts. Like, there's definitely gonna be some quads getting smashed.
This should be the tiny hawk dive off.
The tiny hawk is fun. I dove the hotel in China. It was scary, but everybody loved it. Like, people in the streets were stopping and trying to take photos of it. The thing's tiny though.
I'm kind of surprised they can even keep track of that. That is a very tiny machine.
Yeah, but it works.
We had like 3 of them in the air at once in the lobby, and we were told not to fly it anymore. So we just kind of like lowered the throttle and hid in one of the back rooms and kept on flying. And they finally kicked us out of the lobby.
Like, did you have the Baby Hawk before?
I've flown it, but I've never owned it. Okay.
Because I was curious on if it was like, significantly better than the Baby Hawk, because I have flown the Baby Hawk, and it's a fun little toy, fun little machine, but I have not flown the new one, so I was kind of curious on your perspective, but I'll definitely have to get my hands on that. We are wrapping up. RacerBot, if people want to reach out to you on the internet, talk to you, give you ideas, or just want to follow you, where can they find you?
Instagram, go by RacerBot FPV.
Yep.
You can tell because my logo has all the hair on it. YouTube, just RaceBot, and add me on Facebook. I try and post as much as I can on there. I'm pretty active in a lot of the FPV groups.
All right, cool. So definitely give him a follow, and we appreciate all of the time. Tell your dad that that we appreciated having him on until he dropped off, and hopefully he's fine. I don't know what happened to him. I guess his house internet went out or something like that.
Yeah, as soon as he started lagging, I was like, all right, he's gonna just like drop off now.
Yep. I was like, we were waiting, but we were like, is he gonna hold on?
I could see in your guys' faces. He'd be talking and just like bubble out, and then he'd come back and be like, oh, okay, and then he just gone.
Yep. It's tough sometimes to do a show over the internet like that. All right, cool. We are done for